Stuff your face with some turkey, like Mike said, turkey-o, whatever it is.
Turkey-o.
I don't know how. Yeah, turkey-o, turkey-o.
Swing on.
Load that plate up, watch some football, NFL. Get ready for some college. We're balling.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure you subscribe. Hit that like button. Drop your resume in the comments.
Good evening, degenerates, and welcome back to another episode of Degen Hours College Football Rivalry Week. We are here. We got this week, Army Navy next week, conference champions after, and then we get to see who's in the playoffs. So absolutely electric. Last week we were shooting blanks all over the show.
Something I'm very good at.
No one, you are great at that. No one. So from what I've heard, I wouldn't know.
Wait, what?
Oh, he would know, brother. How you doing?
That's not even good. Never mind.
That's sketchy.
Hey.
No one above 50% on the pod. Mario, 8-17. Beautiful week. Beautiful week. On the season now, no one above 50% as well.
That's crazy.
This is just bad.
I love a challenge.
It's really bad.
Yeah, well, we got weeks
Mike's
left.
in last at 43, and me and Ryan are tied at 49%
right there.
for the season. So not good. The Mortal Lock Parlay, where we pay you money if it hits, wasn't going to hit last week because we were 1-3. Mario's the only one who hit, and Michael has now lost 3 consecutive Mortal Locks, so he is out of the parlay, relegated. He had the lead in the Mortal Lock standings.
He had a 3-game lead over me.
Which he has now handed off to Mario. So Mike's out of the parlay, 3-leg parlay this week. If you're not subscribed for that, we're paying $450 if these 3 legs hit, Ryan, mine, and Mario's Mortals. So subscribe, drop a comment, let us know that you're pumped to potentially get some good money. We have a lot of really, really good games this week. So 3 we want to highlight, and then we're going to talk every single game that we're betting this week for very, very exciting, what's shaping up to be an exciting rivalry week. First game on the card, Michigan at Ohio State. This has been a crazy game the last 3 years for the fact that Michigan has won all 3 of them. Ohio State, though, 20.5-point home favorite. So obviously the books think they're not going to repeat the last 3 years. Total 43.5. Ryan, you've been pretty dialed in as to how Ohio State's going to perform any given Saturday. How do you think they're going to do this week? Do you think they cover the spread?
This is a weird one. I know that no matter what happens in any way, shape, or form, we should cover the spread. Like literally anything that possibly happens, we should cover. There's nothing that I've seen out of Michigan that can convince me that we shouldn't cover. But then it's Ryan Day against Michigan. You know what I mean? Every year I've thought what you mean. Every year I've thought there's no way.
I've been around you for the Ohio State-Michigan game, and every year you say the same thing. You're like, hey, we should beat them this year. And then after the game, you're like, Ryan Day is the worst coach of all time.
No, he is. And he's magical. He's great at doing it.
He's elite.
He's elite at being the worst coach of all time. And I just think that in this spot, it is kind of the only small fraction of small chance Ohio State doesn't make the playoffs is if they lose at home to Michigan. In my opinion, I think there is a small, minuscule chance if things work out and, no one really gets upset like crazy and, everything lengthens out.
Maybe Indiana gets in over Ohio State, even though Ohio State beat them.
Yeah, that would be a little... But, like I said, anything can happen if Michigan just comes into Ohio State and makes us look terrible. I don't think that will happen, but because of that, Ryan Day is so good at never going all out. He never goes deep. He never still throws the ball in every play. He's just going to grind the game out to make sure we have the W at the end of the game. All that matters. And I think this will be one of those games where I'm obsessed with the under of 43.5 because I think it's going to be one of those 20-7 disgusting games that we just win and look bad because Ryan Day doesn't push the envelope at all. And I don't think we're going to cover, unfortunately, just because of how Ryan Day is going to coach this game and the number it's at, 43.5. I personally just don't see it cover. I think we win the entire way. I don't even think Michigan's ahead. Unlike Indiana last week, took the lead like every team against Ohio State does. I don't think Michigan has the lead once in this game, but I think it's just a gross game where Michigan's defense, they have a really good interior line, one of the best cornerbacks in the country. They have a good backups. I think they could slow us down if we play a stupid game plan. So I just would lean on Michigan State covering this weird game. But I love the under. Michigan.
Yeah.
My bad.
Look, so Michigan's lost 4 of their last 6 games. Michigan has been, is infamous this season for just being bad.
Yep.
They're losing to everyone. I think this is the year Ohio State can actually abuse them and get back for the 3 years of straight losses. I don't think Ryan Day pulls the starters once in this game, regardless of the score. Michigan has embarrassed him, has literally they're the only reason he is on, a semi-hot seat with a team winning double-digit wins every season. This is the one game for Ohio State fans, regardless of how good either team is, that just means more. Probably more than the Big Ten championship, to be completely honest. If Michigan's beaten you 3 consecutive seasons,
Well, that is the Big Ten championship, or was at least.
Well, that was who goes into the Big Ten championship.
It was the championship. That's
Sure,
the
yeah.
game felt like that.
Sure, but I'm just saying, I think this is the year they can really avenge the last couple seasons because Michigan has shown no ability to really compete with really good teams. I mean, they played a closer game against I think Indiana, than some may have thought. But again, Indiana I think kind of showed their true colors in a blowout loss last week to Ohio State. So say what you want about Indiana and Penn State. Ryan Day has kind of shaken off this season his performance against top 5 teams. I know Michigan's not a top 5 team, but he's won back-to-back top 5 games against Penn State and Indiana. And honestly, I think we weren't necessarily wrong thinking Ohio State should have beat Oregon. A lot went weird in that game that we've talked about ad nauseum. So I think his performance this year is actually relatively admirable, and I think they cover this spread relatively easy. I can't see Michigan scoring a touchdown against Ohio State. So I do like the under. I like a 34-3 game.
That'd be beautiful.
Because I just don't know how they move on this defense. Maybe a pick 6. Maybe a defensive touchdown, but not an offensive touchdown.
Teams have run the ball sometimes well.
I think very similar game script to Penn State, except they have a much worse defense than Penn State, where Penn State's only touchdown was on defense. I think that's the only possibility. But yeah, I love Ohio State.
Yeah, I am definitely all over Ohio State here. I think that this is going to be a not close game at all because there's not the weight that I had previously. I think the lack of pressure or the release of pressure is just, going to make this any other week, and I don't see them losing or winning by anything less than 32 points. So I definitely love the over. I think it's just going to be a classic Ryan Day first quarter slow start where even if Michigan never leads, it could definitely be 7-7 ending the first quarter. Wouldn't be too surprised. And then Michigan never scores again, and Ohio State scores 42.
So you love a live bet of the over as well. And a live bet of the Ohio State spread.
Yeah, maybe a live over, live Ohio State ladder.
Indiana last week, pretty much the same.
Yeah, exact same game
Live
script.
bet the over and the spread, you win $1 million.
Yeah.
Genius.
Yeah. Ryan Day, not even to get that game, just keep doing what you've been doing, and you'll win by $1.5 trillion.
We're in lockstep on this one. Mario, where are you standing?
Yeah, so I won't have this game on my card, except for the under. I do like the under. I don't see Michigan necessarily scoring that much. I think they can get 10 points. It's still Michigan versus Ohio State. It's still a rivalry. But I think everything last week showed me kind of where Ohio State's mentality is at. They seemed extra kind of juiced for that Indiana game. I think that was the game that they were really looking forward to after Penn State. I don't really think they're looking at this game that hard because they know they're not going to lose this game. And I'll stick by that. Ohio State's going to win the game, okay? If I had to place a bet, honestly, I'd go Michigan covering this number. I just think this is a look-ahead spot for Ohio State. This is a game that really, I think, means a lot more to Michigan to just come out and prove that they can, play a tough game against them. I think for Michigan, that's a win. They don't have anything to lose. They're not expected to win. They're a 3 touchdown underdog. You know what I mean? There's nothing at risk for Michigan. They have nothing to lose. They've won 3 years in a row. So they will just walk in with that belief that something can happen. And in these games, something can happen. So I would just heed a warning to people just trying to hammer Ohio State on this, on this spread, because I just think it's a weird spot where I would not be surprised in the slightest if Michigan covers the spread.
Yeah. Fair enough. I guess we're split 2-2 with the Ohio State fan who's typically been right on Michigan. So maybe don't go all in like me and Mike, but I'm definitely going all in.
Yeah, I'm going all in. Yeah. I'm mortgaging the ball.
I wouldn't be surprised at the same time if Ohio State covered. That's why I'm just not betting the spread.
That's fair enough. Well, a game I'm definitely going all in on. The next game we're talking about. South Carolina at Clemson. We are 2.5-point home favorites and the total 49.5. All right. This right here is a program-defining game for Clemson. I cannot get away from this -2.5. I don't mortal lock my own team, but I do want everyone to know if that was allowed, I would be mortal locking Clemson minus 2.5. With a win, it's a 10-win regular season with only one conference loss. 100% chance Dabo keeps his job, regardless of what anyone thinks. And Clemson fans and the media actually would have a relatively decent case to argue that we should be an at-large bid to the college football playoffs. I think just even having an argument's sake to say, hey, we might have been deserving, be one of those teams that they talk about in the first 4 out and why. I think that is enough to keep Dabo's job intact. One conference loss, maybe you still decent recruiting prowess there. But if Clemson loses at home to South Carolina, we're all of a sudden 9-3 on the year, 100% out of the college football playoffs, unless something crazy happens. We're in the conference championship. But regardless, 0-2 against ranked SEC teams, really bad look. And that would be back-to-back home losses against South Carolina for the first time since 2010, 2012. So not in the Dabo era. Everything else aside, Clemson has really owned South Carolina in the last decade. 8-1 in the last 9 matchups. We won last year. Death Valley is going to be so loud you can barely hear yourself. A lot of people, both on Clemson and South Carolina side, were very, very, very upset with the College game day decision to go to College Station because they made the decision before the Auburn game, assuming A&M would win. Now all of a sudden, it's a much less desirable game, not as close as what we think the South Carolina-Clemson game is going to be. Spread's obviously much closer in this game. So I'm all over Clemson. We really haven't lost at home. We had a very close loss against, with a DJ-led team against Spencer Rattler. But last decade, you've made a lot of money betting on Clemson in these games, and it's a home game. So I absolutely love this one. I think we get it done, and I think there's a shot we get in the playoffs because of it.
Damn, that's crazy. I think Clemson will win, just not the game. They're going to win as a program when they lose the game and have to get rid of Dabo Swinney and finally make a change. Finally make a change for their program, which is desperately needed if you want to be good for the future and get offers, NIL, and all the money. South Carolina is on fire. They've shown all year that they can hang and beat unbelievably talented teams. Their defense does it. Their offense does it. They get it. They find a way to do it. Even on the road, they've looked amazing. They went to Kentucky, murdered them. They went to Bama and lost by 2 in that crazy game. LSU was an unbelievable game. Should have beat LSU. LSU made a great comeback. I just think that South Carolina showed all year that they could hang with all these teams. And this is going to be Clemson's first real test in my eye. Like, they got waxed by Georgia. First week, I didn't count that game. Like, it wasn't for week 1. Who knows what's going on in college football? Blah blah blah. Then all of a sudden, Cade picks it up, looks good. This is going to be the first game where it's like, wow, like this is it. Like, are we going to be able to see it? I don't trust it at all. It's kind of like how I view Quinn. Like, I haven't seen it, so I'm not going to trust it. And I really like South Carolina. I like the hot team just doing what they have been doing and winning in a hard division and consistently showing they can play good defense and score the ball. So I love South Carolina here, and I also love the under. I think 50 points in one of these rivalry games is insane. Like, I think this is going to be a very defensive game, and someone's going to come out on top. I just like South Carolina here.
All right, Mike?
So I thought this game was really interesting on paper because they are seemingly mirror opposites of each other. To show you, South Carolina, for their offense, they average 30.8 points per game, which puts them 38th in the nation. Clemson, on the other hand, averages 36.3, putting them 11th. We go to defense, and it's literally flipped. So South Carolina allows 18.8 points on average, putting them at 13th, similar to Clemson's 11. And then Clemson defense allows 22.8, which puts them at 39th, similar to that 38 spot for South Carolina. So I thought that was really interesting because... Not only because I think both these teams are so similar, or not similar, but evenly matched on paper. I think it's going to play, I think home field advantage will play a big factor here. I think Tyler is absolutely right. Death Valley will be going ballistic. And I think that Clemson knows, not only as a team, but as a fan base, which is part of the reason why they'll get up so much, that they need to win this, to be in the conversation of any type, like Tyler said. So, yeah, I have Clemson not big here, but I will definitely lean Clemson with the home field advantage.
Yeah, the guys in South Carolina have been pre-gaming this one since Monday, so they're definitely gonna be loud.
Or since birth. I mean, they might have been.
This is gonna be this is a big game for the program. But yeah, what do you feel like, Mario?
Wow, this game has me so split because it's hard for me to trust South Carolina, but then again, it's been hard for me to trust them all year, and they just seemingly find a way to kind of stay in games. This is a game where I think at the end of the day, I'm going to go Clemson simply because they're home. But I would not be surprised if you see a few lead changes. It's going to be a really close game.
It's gonna be a tough game.
This is a
100%.
game. This is a game, like Ryan said, where we've seen South Carolina all year hang in with top-ranked teams. This is towards the end of the season. This is where defense really, really needs to lock in, and we've seen that the past 4 or 5 weeks with South Carolina. That they've actually, in my opinion, been kind of momentum-wise been rising.
Unbelievable.
yeah.
On defense,
Where-
unbelievable.
They're one of the best looking teams in the country.
Well,
right
that
now.
freshman 5-star guy is
And their other
unbelievable.
DN. Yeah, Evan
yeah.
Stewart and then the other one.
Yeah,
also
Evan
amazing.
Stewart.
Whereas Clemson, obviously week 1, I'm kind of throwing out the window because I was Georgia and that was just basically a home game for Georgia. Since then, they played a bunch of unranked teams and they blew out them as they should. It was kind of hard to see, is this Clemson defense legit or not? And then after that kind of 5-6 week stretch of Clemson winning all those games, then it seemed like their momentum kind of
Louisville
fizzled
game.
out. And yeah, pretty much the Louisville game was the turning point. And ever since then, they've been allowing points. I mean, yeah, it's a tough game. I think the defensive edge goes to South Carolina. And a lot of times in these games, that's the teams that you want to be betting on. It's just hard for me to do that, knowing just the history and this being a home game for Clemson. So I'm gonna give it. I'm gonna give a pick out Clemson -2.5. But truthfully, I'm not betting this game.
Fair enough. Yeah, and one thing kind of to add just before we move on is that Clemson's O-line is extremely banged up, as they have been the last few weeks, and South Carolina's D-line is playing arguably one of the best few in the country. So I think it will be won and lost both on offense and defense at the line of scrimmage. I think both these quarterbacks can play really well and they can play really bad depending on the pressure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one. But I got to go with my guys. Last game, big game for Michael. We got an Ohio State game, a Clemson game, and now a Texas game. Texas at Texas A&M, a play-in game for the SEC Championship. Texas 5.5-point road favorites, total 48.5. Michael, obviously the floor is yours.
Man, okay. Huge game. Definitely not gonna be overly confident in this. I think this is really where, we talked about it almost in the recaps. But this is where you see if a team has adapted to a new conference or not. This is at the end of the regular season. Do your boys still have the stamina, the heart, the energy to contend against, one of those tough places to play and the seemingly, well, I guess before they lost to Auburn, seemingly a tough team. I think, I hate to make this comparison, but I think we actually have to play similar to how Michigan won the Natty last year, and that is pretty much off the coattails of our defense. I think we have the ability and the talent on that side of the ball to do so. We forced the most interceptions thrown by opposing quarterbacks than anyone else in the nation. And I think if we're able to, keep our composure in an environment that is going to be absolutely rocking, trying their best to get us, not getting snaps off in time or whatever, not being able to hear adjustments on the line. If we're able to keep our composure, not get so many damn penalties that we get every single freaking week. It is so reckless. It's so reckless. It's so unbelievable. But I think, again, this is one of those things where I hate to say it, but, Quinn hasn't lived up to what I thought pretty evidently, pretty obviously. And I think, again, if our defense can put him in a position where he doesn't have to go do so much, like carrying the ball or whatever.
Have to win the game.
Exactly. Like if they could put him on the 40, on the 35 with most of the times that he's getting the ball, or, force a couple interceptions and force a few turnovers from A&M, I think we could really make a statement here and go into the SEC championship. But, I think this Texas team is one of those teams, especially with Quinn and the way he's been playing, that they need a break. They look tired and they look kind of just not as dominant as they were in the beginning of the year. Hurts to say, and I think it is also important to note that although the games that we played recently against like Florida, Arkansas, whatever, they seem close at the end of the game, but realize that most of our opposing points are coming near the end of the game when we already have had like a 3+ touchdown lead or a 2+ touchdown lead. So I think that kind of says something about that. But I'm definitely not ever going to fade Texas here. So Texas -5.5, and let's go to a championship, baby.
Yeah, Mario. I like it, Mike. I'm rooting for you. I actually am.
Hook 'em.
Yeah. This is a weird spot for me because Texas is easily the better team. So I'd rather see them just for playoff implications, like have them in versus an A&M. That being said, this is a really tough environment, and
Really tough.
this is one of those games where just recently Texas hasn't looked good. They have these sputters where they'll go like a quarter where they just seem confused, discombobulated, whether it's offense or not too much defensively, but defensively, the main thing I've seen consistently over the past couple weeks is they'll just give up some cheap penalties, keep drives alive for teams that maybe, earlier in the season would be 3 and outs. All of a sudden, it's like a dumb holding
PI.
call, dumb
Yeah.
PI, face mask. I think not last game, but maybe 2 weeks ago, where there was like the corner just grabbed. It's like you have no business doing that. This is a game where I'm gonna go Texas A&M, staying within this number. I just don't trust Texas to pull out a big lead here. I'm gonna say Texas is gonna win the game. I'm gonna say they'll win by a field goal, but I will not be surprised if Texas, especially in the fourth quarter, starts like Mike said, looking tired. All of a sudden, you see some A&M momentum that maybe in the first half they look a little not productive offensively. All of a sudden, they put together 1 or 2 drives. The pressure kind of builds on Quinn. He needs to pick up a few first downs, and at that point, with that environment, anything can happen. I like A&M just staying in this number.
Gotcha. Right?
Yeah, I really, really like Texas A&M winning this game outright. I'm not even worried about the +6 or plus
5.5.
Plus 5.5. Sorry. I just think that I've watched Texas the last couple weeks, and they've looked absolutely horrific adjusting to situations. 3 of the last 4 games in the second half, they scored less than 10 points.
Yeah.
In the second half. So that means that in this game, you're probably going to be shitting your brains out to start the game in a huge matchup. You might start slow, and you've yet to show that you can adjust in the second half, especially in the last recently couple games. You haven't scored any points. Scored 6 2 weeks ago, scored 10 last week. So you haven't shown anything that you can change it up or keep momentum or anything. And you're going into the toughest place you're going to have to play as a program probably in a game like this. I mean, I just think that Texas A&M is just going to have everything rolling for them.
Everything to play for.
And I just don't think, like I said, the adjustments aren't going to be there. Yeah, it might be a defensive game. It might stay close. But Texas A&M at home is just going to be rolling. And Texas' offense, I mean, in my opinion, they're just abysmal. Like, they don't have anything that they could lock into. The running game is wish or wash every other game when they want to. Their quarterback play is absolutely you're guessing what quarterback you're going to get at each week. You have no idea. And your offensive schemes have low-key been mid. Like, I haven't seen anything crazily impressive. That Florida game, yes, you came out and whooped Florida. Vanderbilt, mid. Arkansas, absolutely mid. Kentucky last week, I mean, besides the last end of the game after you got it, it was just mid. So I just think Texas A&M has everything rolling for them, and Texas doesn't really. I just don't think they'll be able to keep up.
A&M.
Money line.
Yeah, I hard disagree about the way Texas is kind of phrased here. You'd think, listening to the last couple minutes, that Texas didn't have double-digit wins in almost every single one of their games this year. Like last week, you'd think their offense didn't look good and it was a close game. It was 34-14 or 31-14. It was a 10-point win at Arkansas. Probably one of the hardest places to play all season long. If you think about the games played in Arkansas this year, not a lot of teams blow out Arkansas when Arkansas is home. So that's just been a theme all season. Yeah, the Vanderbilt game was a sketchy one, but they're able to pull it out in the end. And as far as second half adjustments go, I actually really like the way they adjusted in the second half against Georgia, the hardest team they have played. The first half, they looked awful. They even threw Arch in there. Second half, they actually came out and made it look like this was going to be a game. Obviously, Georgia had the touchdown, and there was some interesting plays there towards the end that were pretty controversial. But, yeah, I'm not impressed with A&M this year. I mean, they lost week 1 at Notre Dame, and it feels like everyone kind of threw that out as, it didn't really matter. I know Notre Dame's a good team, but they lost by 10. They went on a pretty good streak. They've lost 2 of their last 3, so they got blown out by South Carolina. They lost by 24. Then they beat New Mexico State at home, and then they went to Auburn and lost last week. So they've lost 2 of their last 3. And you'd think the way A&M's home field advantage was, phrased, that they've just been crushing at home. Their home games this season, they played McNeese. It's not an FBS team. They played Bowling Green, where they won by 6 at home. They played Arkansas at home, where they won by 4. That's also a similar opponent. Texas played at Arkansas, won by 10. Texas A&M hosted Arkansas. They won by 4. Then they blew out Missouri, a team. Don't get me started on Missouri, but that's a very impressive win. They looked great that game. And then the LSU game where Marcel Reed came in, obviously huge turnaround. They were down big at home, came back and won. And then they played New Mexico State last week, and also another one of those throwaway games like McNeese. So
how many losses at home do they have?
One, just the Notre Dame first
Just
week
the
of the
Notre
season.
Dame.
Which is the 7th ranked team in the nation. Thank you.
yeah, no, exactly. So they haven't looked that great at home this year, and they've lost 2 of their last 3. This is the easiest pick, one of the easiest picks of the weekend. This Texas team is really, really underrated the way people are talking about them. It's as if they aren't scoring 30 points in a lot of these games or 27 in Vanderbilt, and it's as if they're not winning these games. I know Quinn's look shaky. I don't think this Texas A&M home field advantage has really shown to be that impressive against a lot of really mid or bad teams. So, yeah, I love the Longhorns here and in a pretty big win, and I think this kind of solidifies them as, a top 5 team or a top 5-6 team heading into the playoffs. So,
I would love that.
yeah, there you have it. But
Let's get domination.
yeah, but we got a lot of other picks to talk about, so let's
win
get
the game first.
right
Amen.
into the cards.
All right, starting with the picks this week. Starting off, as I do every week.
Oh, Lord.
Shedor.
Off the cliff.
Colorado minus 16.5 against Oklahoma State. Also, Colorado, Oklahoma State over 65.5. Georgia Tech, other team I bet on every week.
Go Tech.
Plus 19.5 against Georgia.
Big
Maybe even sprinkle the money line.
Upset alert.
Upset alert. Nebraska, shout out Patrick Mahomes 2.0. Dylan Raiola. Plus 5.5 against Iowa. Army, thank you for your service. Minus 6.5 against UTSA. Kentucky, plus 4.5 against Louisville. Syracuse, Kyle McLaren-McCord, plus 10.5 against Miami. Actually, like the money line there. Northern Illinois, minus 12.5 against Central Michigan. Ohio State, Michigan, under 43.5. SMU, minus 13.5
So
against
nice.
Cal.
Love it.
Notre Dame, minus 7.5 against USC. This might be a big win. They might win by 30. Wazoo, Washington State, minus 16.5 against Wyoming. Washington State, Wyoming, over 58.5. LSU minus 5.5 against Oklahoma. Going to be honest here, I'm not confident. Not at all. But going down with the ship.
Yeah. got it right.
LSU, Oklahoma, over 47.5. Indiana, minus 28.5 against Purdue. Florida, minus 14.5 against Florida State. I actually like the way
Florida.
Florida's been looking the past couple weeks. Oregon, Washington, over 50.5. And best pick on the card, Texas A&M, plus 5.5 against Texas.
Bang!
Obnoxious as all hell.
Yeah, let's bring
That's
it over to
obnoxious
Mike.
as all hell, and I can't bet who he's playing against because I hate them more than I hate him.
Do it, Mike.
No, I'm not.
I'd like to
never.
see you do
You hate him?
Not a fan right now.
Oh,
Not
hate
a fan.
list.
Add it to the hate list. Intern Johnson.
No.
Mario has been added to the hate list.
No.
And the reasoning behind it?
No.
He hates Oklahoma more than he hates Mario, and he's not
On
a
the
fan
hate
right
list.
now.
But I don't
That's-
hate
Put
Mario.
that for the text. We have a hate list. It's a long list.
You'll
now.
get it. You'll get it.
Off-season episode. It's coming to you right after the NFL
It'll be its
season's
own
done.
episode.
It's
That
its
will
own
be an
episode.
interesting
Like an
episode.
2-hour episode.
Yeah. All right. Go ahead,
It
Mike.
might be a 4.5 hour
Let's hear the
two-part
card.
podcast. All right, so this card is electric, and I'll tell you when to start really dialing in because it gets.
Let them be the judge of that.
No. I'll tell them. All right, so starting off the way that we do every single week, we hook 'em horns. Texas minus
A&M.
5.5, Ohio State minus 20.5, and Clemson minus 2.5.
What a rider.
Huge rider.
Yep, love to.
You're missing one, though.
Love to support.
ride.
Love
He's out
Loves
there.
to ride.
Love to support. Love to support.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, you didn't hear LSU against your least favorite team in the world.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm not. I'm not going with him.
Yeah.
I'll support you.
He
two.
likes to ride you guys.
Yeah.
I'll support you two.
He
He'll
knows something.
support you.
Yeah.
Haven't heard
All
a
right,
phrase
all right.
like
All
that.
right, next. Vandy, Dylan or Diego Pavia, shout out you, plus
president.
11.5 versus Tennessee, because good old Rocky Top, Tennessee. Florida, minus 14.5 at FSU, down with the Seminoles. I don't know how they have
Wow.
this. I don't know how they still
I
have
think
their
that's
name.
a protected group. I don't know if you
I
can
don't know if you
really.
can say
Protect
that,
my
man.
parks. Oregon minus 19.5 versus Washington because Ducks, they go quack.
You're not wrong.
And
Quote
now This is the part where you really need to lock in because these next 4 picks are very, very important to me personally. So, starting off, Oklahoma State plus 16.5 versus Colorado. Iowa State minus 2.5 versus Kansas State. BYU minus 13.5 at Houston. And Arizona State minus 8.5 at Arizona. I love these 4 picks because if two...
This is the electric part?
It's my fade. I hate Colorado.
It's
Group
all the
of 4.
chances. Yeah, it's the opposite of what Colorado needs.
Yeah.
As long as 2 happens, you're probably in.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
So
out.
I hate Colorado. I hope they die.
Jesus.
Bleep that.
But not really. Not really. But not really.
But really.
And then next, get back game. Bama minus 11.5 versus Auburn because Iron Bowl. This is gonna be the first ever blowout. You've never seen anything like it. First time ever.
There's been a lot of blowouts.
Nope, never. SMU minus 13.5 versus Cal. And SMU Cal over 57.5.
Bang.
And lastly but not leastly, shout out Air Force because they like to go over and above with SDSU over 43.5. I don't know why, but I think that number is too low and I like it. So
Number's too low. Air Force flies high.
well,
Not this
yeah,
year.
planes.
Yeah.
Their planes have not left the ground.
Yeah. No, they've been.
Biden administration, brother.
Sorry.
Whoa.
They've hit the tower.
Jesus.
Whoa!
First pick on the card. Ohio State minus 20.5.
Just like that,
We
the
already talked.
podcast goes crashing.
Clemson minus 2.5 and Texas minus 5.5. We already talked through those. Oregon State plus 20.5 at Boise State. Love that pick. They're just gonna win, not cover. Georgia Tech plus 19.5 against Georgia. I think this one's pretty easy, to be honest. I think Georgia Tech hangs in there the entire game. Georgia wins by like 13. It's pretty scripted. Vanderbilt plus 11.5 and on upset alert against Tennessee. Really like Vandy at home this year. And it's their last game, rivalry game. I think it's going to be electric. They'll probably end the season ranked relatively decently if they can pull up this upset. So I love the spread on this. UTSA plus 6.5 at Army. I think the same thing that happened to Navy is going to happen to Army, where they get blown out by Notre Dame, and the following week they're small favorites against not a very good team, and the not a very good team actually wins outright. So I'm taking UTSA on the money line here on the road. Illinois minus 7.5 at Northwestern. Notre Dame minus 7.5 and agree with Mario in a blowout at USC. Alabama minus 11.5 in a get-back spot against Auburn. Syracuse plus 10.5 at home against Miami. Am I pleased? Oh my God, Kyle McCord win this outright for me game of the year.
Yeah.
Arizona State minus 8.5 at Arizona. I think this is pretty cake. They're one of the hottest teams in football right now. And Kansas State plus 2.5 at Iowa State.
I mean, just electricity. Right through it. Michael, this one's for you. Colorado minus 16.5 versus Oklahoma State. Colorado, Oklahoma State over 65.5. Oregon State plus 20.5 versus Boise State. Couldn't agree more, Tyler. Boise State frauds. Texas State, South Alabama over 61.5. Ole Miss team total over 44.5. Utah State, Colorado State over 59.5. Georgia Tech under 54.5 because Georgia Tech might upset them. North Carolina minus 3.5 for NC State. North Texas minus 11.5 for Temple. North Texas Temple over 63.5. North Texas team total over 37.5. Louisiana, shout out Mario, minus 9.5 for UL Row. Duke Wake Forest over 53.5. Ohio State Michigan under 43.5. Army minus 6.5 versus UTSA because Army team total over 30.5. South Carolina Clemson under 49.5. Illinois minus 7.5 versus Northwestern. Tennessee Vanderbilt under 48.5. Florida minus 14.5 versus Florida State. Shout out Lagway. USC Notre Dame under 51.5. TCU minus 2.5 for Cincinnati. TCU Cincinnati over 58.5. Kansas minus 1.5 versus Baylor. Stay hot. Texas Tech West Virginia over 64.5. We all hate West Virginia. BYU minus 13.5 versus Houston. Boston College minus 4.5 versus Pitt. Alabama minus 11.5 versus Auburn. Arizona State minus 8.5 versus Arizona. UCLA minus 9.5 versus Fresno State. Shout out Andrew Johnson. Penn State team total over 37.5. Missouri minus 3.5 versus Arkansas. Syracuse Miami over 67.5. Syracuse team total over 27.5. Miami team total over 39.5. Texas A&M Texas under 48.5. Washington State team total over 37.5. Oklahoma plus 5.5 versus LSU. Indiana minus 28.5 versus Purdue. UNLV minus 18.5 versus Nevada. SMU minus 13.5 versus Cal. SMU Cal over 57.5. And how I end every single play. SMU team total over 35.5.
There you have it. That was an electric card.
That's every game.
Every game.
We've arrived at a point in the show that you've all been waiting for. If you've been watching the programs, if you're new here, we give out what we like to call the Mortal Lock Parlay. We give it away. We put our own money on it and just give it away if it hits. It's happened once this year. It actually happened when we only had 3 legs for $450.
Guess what we have
Michael
right
is
now?
out of the parlay, so we're going to hear his pick way after we talk about the parlay. So blur him out for this episode.
completely
for this
blur him
part. It's 3 legs, $450. All you have to do, like, comment, and subscribe. And I want to hear you kick it off, Ryan.
All right, I studied real hard. After last week's loss, LSU just screwed me by half a point. It really hurt. This is the one where I'm
Shout out Brian Kelly.
Oh, yeah, Brian Kelly just loves it. I'm all in on this pick. I think, I just think this is going to be a high-scoring game, and it's going to be a bounce-back spot. But over UTSA Army of 54.5. Let me tell you, Army can score. They had a bad game last week versus Notre Dame. We all saw, or most of us saw it coming. Nothing surprisingly in Notre Dame. They're back home. They still have a chance to end the year well. They still can make a bowl game. Everything could be great. Score a lot of points. UTSA, on the other hand, they're a top 10 offensive team, and no one's even seen it coming. They average like 40 points a week, score a million, but I do think Army's going to pull it out because they have a lot to play for still, even though they lost last week to Notre Dame. And I think that they have to win, so they're going to score. I think like a 35-30 type game, 37-30 type game, a million points, and I love this over.
48-40.
Love that.
Oh,
million
wow.
points.
I love that pick. All right, so that's the first leg of the parlay.
Easy.
Second leg is actually a pick that was on everyone's card this week, which is pretty cool.
Love that.
I am going with Florida minus 14.5.
Florida.
DJ Lagway.
I love this pick. Florida is probably the best. Let's see how many losses they have. Hold on. They're the best 5-loss team in the country. Their schedule this year
Them or Kansas?
is belligerent. They played Miami, who's top 10, Tennessee, who's top 10, Georgia, who's top 10, Texas, who's top 10, and in the last 2 weeks beat ranked LSU when they were ranked, and Ole Miss top 10 as of last week, and beat them by 7. So their schedule is insane.
Yeah.
And they've been either hanging in there or beating ranked teams. Florida State is one of the worst teams in all of college football.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, Florida State played a ranked Notre Dame and lost 52-3. 52-3.
Love that.
Against Notre Dame. They got blown out against North Carolina, blown out against Miami, blown out by Clemson, blown out by SMU. Like any decent team they play, this number's outside of 25. Just because it's a rivalry game, I guess they're having this 2 touchdowns just over and it's home. I don't care. This is a 50-point blowout. I'm extremely confident in DJ Lagway. He looks like one of the best up-and-coming superstars we have in college football. So yeah, Florida.
My pick this week. I heard 2 people have it on their card. I don't know if you had it or not. My pick this week, this team loves to score, and the team that are playing also can score a little bit. It's SMU Cal over 57.
Oh, I love
there
that.
it is.
No, I love
SMU
that.
over, Florida covering the spread, and the over
Army,
in the
UTSA.
UTSA Army game. Those are your 3 legs. If those hit, we're paying you $450. One of you $450. So be a subscriber for sure. All right, that's the parlay. Mike's relegated. He has to hit a mortal lock, something he hasn't done in 3 weeks, to get back in the parlay. He was our mortal lock leader, but he's fallen off the wagon. Mike, what gets you back on the wagon?
Yeah, I'm going down with the ship here, or we're bouncing back, just like this team's chances at the college football playoffs. Indiana minus 28.5 versus Purdue. They just have to get back.
I actually love that. Produced.
I mean, I'm going to win by 50.
Do we have Intern Johnson's crappy pick of the week? All right,
Yeah, I
let's hear it.
do. Yeah, the Intern Johnson crappy pick of the week is Indiana minus 28.5.
Oh my God! How funny would that be?
Actually?
No.
How funny would
I
that be?
was about to say it's not allowed. It's literally not
That's
allowed.
way
I
too
know
good of a
Purdue is
game.
one of the worst teams in college football. I kind
No,
of
but not against Indiana.
If it was Purdue
yeah.
plus 28.5, I'd
Yeah,
respect it.
all right. What is it?
We don't have one.
We don't? Oh.
I don't know.
Oh,
Do we
all
have
right.
one? No, yeah, he's shaking his head. No.
Oh, he gave up.
To be fair,
Gave up.
it
It's
hasn't
probably
been
for the
good.
best.
Yeah,
Oh,
he gave
yeah,
up.
it's been terrible, but
We're
Three fade,
retiring.
though.
We're relegating the pick for the rest of the season.
hashtag Intern Johnson's not doing his job. We need a new intern in the comments below.
Drop your
Hashtag-
resume in our Instagram
Yeah.
box.
Drop the
Hashtag kill
rest.
our intern.
Don't do that. Stop
No.
killing people on the
Jesus.
podcast.
You
Every
hate
time.
our podcast
We can't-
here. You want to kill our intern? Anyone else that should?
We're almost at 1.5K
Gotta have a
subscribers.
couple.
Mike probably wants to kill you guys too.
No,
So-
no.
No, yeah, you got to hit that button. Mario, tell the people what they should do before they
A lot of different
go in.
buttons
and
out there.
enjoy their Thanksgiving. This is on Thanksgiving. Happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, by the way.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Gobble gobble.
Happy Turkey Day.
Stuff
Yo.
your face with some turkey, like Mike said. Turkey yo, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Turkey yo.
I don't know
Turkey-o.
how. Yeah, turkey yo,
Aye.
turkey yo. You know,
Swing on.
load that plate up. Watch some football, NFL. Get ready for some college. We're balling.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you subscribe. Hit that
Subscribe.
like button. Drop your resume in the comments.
Resume in the comments.
And we gonna see you next
Full work
week.
experience and education. We'll see you
Mike,
next
turn
week.
on that notification.
Yeah.
Whoa! Okay, cut that camera. We'll see you next week.
Hey. Yeah!
We'll see you next week.